we've learned how color is used in art, we need to practice coloring using our colored pencils so we can use these techniques. One of the first things that we learned about was a tint. A tint is a way that we get different colors in art. So if we take a regular color and we add white to that, we end up getting a tint. But we need to talk about how to use tints with colored pencils. So in order to do this, I'm going to need a white colored pencil, and then you can see here it says color choice. I happen to be using red so that we can see how we make a pink. So to begin with, I'm going to take my white colored pencil and I'm going to fill it in this first section. You can see that as I add white to the white paper, we're not actually seeing white being applied to the paper. But this is to get us in the habit and practice, because we'll need to do this in other sections. And we need to always add white first. When making a tint, we add the color white first. So I'm just using tall up and down movements as I go through this to color in this section of white. You can always tell if you've colored in a section with white because you can feel the difference of color on the page versus not color on the page. A little bit smoother right there. Now I'm going to take my color choice, which again for me is red, and I'm going to fill in this color. You can see nice tall vertical lines is what I'm using here. And you'll also notice that I'm not changing directions. We've talked about color direction and how important it is. So I'm just filling in this section, tall and vertical. I'm going to keep my lines that direction as I continue filling this together. Sometimes you may feel the urge to change direction because your hand might not be feeling as comfortable, so you think it might be easier to change directions. But we need you to keep moving in the same direction so that your color direction is looking very neat. If you do need to change directions, you could move the paper and you could move in those directions so that you're getting that left to right, but instead of moving in the direction of the colored pencil, you just move the paper so that we keep our lines nice and tall when we're finished. So I'm going to finish coloring this in. You can see adding that red nice and tall. Not leaving any white spaces, trying to fill in this full section. Now I'm going to go ahead and add another layer, and you can see what that'll look like when I'm finished. Now you can see I've gone through and added another layer onto my red so it really stands out nicely. Now this is where we start to blend our tint together into its own separate color. So remember, with a tint we have to start with the color white. So I'm going to lay down this color, and if we don't lay down the color white first, then we're just ending up with the red that we had on our colored pencil. This is adding a nice layer of white so that as we blend colors together, we're going to end up with a tint instead of the same color. So nice tall movements as I color in with this white colored pencil. And then I'm going to grab my red. And as I create a tint, I want to move away from the top of the pencil. You can see here I'm pretty close. I don't want to be even closer, but I want to move back just a little bit further so I'm adding less pressure. And I'm going to use those same up and down movements. And even though I'm using less pressure, the white is preventing as much red from going down in our section. So you can see just keeping those movements nice and tall as I move through this. Getting a nice even layer down. So that's a good first layer. Oftentimes we want to add multiple layers with our blending. If we don't have multiple layers, then it's going to leave some streaks in our stuff, and we don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and add another layer of white. And one nice thing about the color white, if you've ever wondered why you have a white colored pencil, it is so that we can also blend our colors. So you can see I'm going to add some of this white, just clean up those edges, and then add another layer. This is going to hopefully get rid of some of those sections where the color is see-through. and just blend it all into a nice even tint of red. So you can see I've started there. I'm going to go ahead and finish this with a few more layers. I think it needs a little bit more, and we'll come back. Here you can see that I have now finished my tint of red by adding a few more layers and blending it together. The reason we start with white is because if I were to add white on top of my red, you can see that it doesn't do anything. It is not actually changing this red into a tint. If anything, it might blend a bit. It does pick up some color on your colored pencil. That's what's kind of helping blend it, but it does not make this a tint. So there you can see how we've used two colors and blending them together to create a new color, such as a pink.